Yo, what up YouTube? This video is something I've been meaning to do for a long time now, and I'm happy to be finally getting around to it. So today I wanted to give you guys some helpful tips and tricks for my favorite Legend Horizon. There will be tips for using both of her abilities along with fight scenarios and my thought process when entering a fight, and how to read the situation. Now this is my very first time doing a video like this, and I will try my best to be as clear as possible. I'm a firm believer though, however, that the best way to learn is by watching and repeating what you see in game. So be sure to check out the link in the description for my Twitch channel so you can hang out with me and chat and just have a good time. I stream almost every day unless something comes up, and I will let you know on Twitter if it does. Alright, on to the video, and there will be timestamps in the description for your convenience. Horizon's passive is one of my favorite things about her. Her passive makes it so you can slide much further than any other legend and keep momentum when falling from high places. I use this every chance I get by making sure I slide at the end of long drops. You can boost the speed of your slide when falling from high up by landing on the edge of an object, like a rock, fence, or anything you can use to gain a little more speed. This is a really useful trick when running away from someone or trying to catch up, or just traversing terrain in general. Movement is key in this game, and that little extra speed can be what gives you extra time to get behind cover to heal before an enemy reaches you. Another useful tip is when you're landing at the beginning of a game, because of your passive, you can pick up loot faster than any other players if you angle yourself just right in the air to fall straight down and skip the landing animation. This is really helpful to get the jump on people landing seconds after you, and you can easily shoot people before they even get the chance to land if you do this correctly. Now you can do this trick with other legends, but it's a lot better for Horizon because even if you don't land on the gun, when she lands she will not be staggered like everybody else and she can run to it a lot faster. Now with her tactical ability, there's so much to talk about, especially since I have almost 10k games played with her. I have a lot to say about this ability. The first point I want to talk about in the main use of her gravity lift is the instant high ground. If you main Horizon, your days of having a hard time dealing with people holding height just got a lot easier. I absolutely love her gravity lift, especially when it comes to the people you get in your games that just want to sit up top and shoot you from afar and grief your fights. Like, I can't stand people like that. When you're using your gravity lift to push somebody already on the high ground, I would recommend throwing it on top of something like a crate or anything else you can use that's nearby. People holding the building up top and watching all the zip lines. This crevice on the side of the mountain can be used, and the big box on the other side so you don't have to go all the way around to the ramp. Now when it comes to fighting on level ground, there are many things you can do with your lift. The primary option is to use it and use the air straight from increased mobility and challenge the enemy. This option, however, isn't always the safest because if you are in front of the enemy team with no cover and the main center of attention, you are more likely going to get fried. I tend to treat Horizon as Wraith, so when fights break out, I'm always on the move trying to get a different angle from my teammates so I can work and catch the enemy off guard with my lift and not get focused as hard when I'm on it. If you are in a 1v1 or have more than one person aping you, this is something you do not want to do, and unfortunately I see a lot of Horizons do this and it ends up costing them the fight. Don't abandon your lift until the uptime runs out. I will say it again. Do not abandon your lift until its uptime runs out. I see so many Horizons do this and it costs them the fight when they easily could have won because they just fling themselves off the lift and they just land in the middle of the open and just get fried as soon as they touch the ground. Your gravity lift has a set uptime and you can play around that to your advantage. What I tend to do when I'm fighting more than one person alone, which happens a lot because I solo queue 50% of the time, so I'll only go up the lift for a second to get a little air time to make myself harder to hit while I'm shooting them. However though, instead of going straight to the ground, I go right back into the lift one more time before getting as high as I can and jump off before the enemy takes it so they can't follow me. Because of her passive, Horizon can do this a lot easier and maneuver back to her gravity lift to use again before other legends, and you want to use this to your advantage. This is a great trick to use to stay alive much longer, and if you jump off your lift right before its uptime's over, you can create some space to give yourself some time to reposition a high ground and heal, or shoot your enemies trying to chase you. Another trick you can do when at a disadvantage in numbers, you can also just throw your lift down while behind cover to confuse your enemy by not taking it right away or at all. This trick is essentially an attempt to bamboozle your opponent by making them focus on the lift while you're behind cover. You can peek around the corner to shoot them while they're just staring at the lift. I tend to do this to try and get some extra damage off, so when I take my grab lift and get a high ground angle, it'll be easier to knock them. I tend to hip fire anytime somebody feels brave enough to take my gravity lift. Taking a Horizon's gravity lift is the right play, but I've had so many times it's happened I know how to deal with it. I will sit on and wait for them to take it, jump off, and then hip fire them on the way down while they're going up, looking for me. Most of the time I do this I can at least break their shield, and then they will usually hop off to try and pop a battery. And then you can successfully land on your lift again before it goes out. You can chase them down to finish the job. Now onto the more utility side of our tactical. Blocking doors and pushing doors with our tactical can be great offensive and defensive strats if done correctly. First point I want to talk about is pushing someone holding a door when you don't have your ult, which we will get to later. So when someone is holding a door on you, all you have to do is run up to the door while pushing forward, throw your lift at your feet, and spam your interact button. Now this won't work every time, but when it does, you can make some really nice plays. I can't say this for every spot, but if there is anything above the door, like the panels above the door on Olympus at Solar Array, then this trick will not work. Another thing, depending on how they're holding the door, like off to the left or right, you can use this to make it easier on your attempt to push through the door by placing a lift slightly off to whichever side they're on to move them over to that side and open the door completely. This happens because when you touch Horizon's gravity lift, it naturally centers you in the middle of the lift if you're not moving. So by doing this, you're forcing them to move to the lift's center of gravity and making them move off the door completely. If this trick doesn't work, you can always just take the lift and fly to another door while they're distracted and push them from that side. Even if you can't force your way inside, just throwing it on the door can be enough because now they can't sit on the door since the lift will blow them away if they try to do so. This makes it able for you to open it and shoot them if they're not hiding behind the door. If they are not holding the door and instead holding the room and watching the door, this push is way more consistent. In one fluid motion, you need to slide, open the door, and throw your lift inside to use your lift effectively without losing your speed. This can take some attempts to get right, but when performed correctly, players holding the room will have a harder time trying to hit you. If you don't throw your lift on the inside, however, you will block yourself out of the room and slow the momentum of the fight, since you can no longer enter the room from that side, which brings us to the next part in using the gravity lift defensively. Like previously mentioned, if you throw your lift right outside the doors, it'll prevent anyone from entering and give you time to do whatever you need to do, like rezzing or healing. If you land somewhere contested, it was also a good idea to look for opportunities to throw your lift at enemies trying to grab loot. This way, even if they do get the gun before you, they won't expect it, and this gives you time to run to find loot and possibly save your life by messing up their aim with the sudden verticality. I use this trick a lot in gunfights too. After I empty my clip, I tend to throw my lift if my enemy is right on top of me to disrupt them, making me harder to hit. I use this trick a lot too when fighting Lifeline and Gibby. Throwing your lift between a Lifeline and a teammate makes dealing with her so much easier, as you can either blow her away and you're free to thirst her teammate, or prevent her from rezzing entirely. Doing this also makes dealing with Gibby a lot easier too. I know I'm not the only one that hates playing the poking game with the Gibby inside of his bubble, so my solution is just to blow him out of the bubble entirely. Horizon's gravity lift is a very powerful ability with great utility. Do not be afraid to use it. Horizon's ult took me a while to get used to with many trial and error attempts, but that's the only way to learn to get better, so I hope my tips will help you in the right direction on how to use her ult properly. Just to go over this, I know a lot of Horizons spam nades in their ult, but it's also important where to place them. Try to throw thermites in the middle where they're going to get pulled to, arc stars in the outer ring where you think they're going to try to escape from, and prevent them from going that direction, and regular grenades are just luck. I honestly don't even bother picking them up. Depending on the legend, I try to wait until they've used their mobility or invulnerability abilities to prevent them from escaping the black hole, or depending on the situation, I'll use it to force them to move, or just obscure the audio and vision while I push them. If you're the one getting pushed, either throw it at your feet or the direction they're coming from to disrupt them. Try to do this sooner than later though, so you don't get caught with your ult in your hands. Now for the big tip a lot of people don't know about. Horizon's ult actually breaks doors. Now this might not sound like much to you, but if you watch the clip showcasing in the background, you will for sure think differently about it. There are endless times in fights when someone you're chasing down makes it inside and sits on the door to heal. Now you can kick it down, but I'm sure this has not ended well for you many times, but doing this trick it will almost guarantee you the fight. And when you go to throw your ult, you don't want to throw it directly on the door. Your enemies get pulled towards the center of your ult, so if you throw it on the door, your enemy won't go anywhere and it'll just break the door. If you throw it behind you, however, they are pulled into or out of the room right into the barrel of your gun without warning. You can time when to shoot for the audio keys of the black hole right as soon as the newt opens. Doing this makes life so much easier and can be used with other legend abilities, like Watson Fences, Caustic, Sheila, Arc Stars, whatever crazy combos you can think of. I've only managed to do it with Watson Fences and Arc Stars, so experiment on what other combos you can do this with. When pairing her black hole with the gravity lift, I find it best to wait to throw the black hole until you reach the top of the lift, because if you don't, newt is more than likely not going to go where intended, as you are still moving while sending your lift. You can definitely learn to use this whilst going up, but I found it easier just to wait until you're at the top. Now one of my absolutely favorite things to do with her lift, although it doesn't happen too often, but when it does it's so funny to watch your enemy scramble in confusion. If they happen to be using a Trident for cover, you can use the gravity lift to blow the Trident away and leaving them exposed, right in the open with no cover. Doing this trick never gets old. My absolute favorite though, however, is using a black hole on Tridents. When a Trident gets stuck in a black hole, it gets stuck completely and unable to leave the area of effect unless there's a jump pad. Doing this when someone is trying to escape in the Trident is the funniest thing in game, just watching them struggle to get away. If it's just you driving around the Trident and you run into a barrier, don't worry, you can still use your grav lift to get over the barriers and not have to leave your Trident behind. You can either throw the grav lift ahead and drive into it, or you can hold your interact button on the Trident driver's seat while throwing your lift simultaneously, and then getting the Trident while it's going up. This is a nice trick, but however, if you mess it up, your Trident will be stuck at the top of your lift, and then you have to wait for your lift to get off cooldown, which will be a total of 30 seconds. Well, I believe I've said all that I can think of to help others master Horizon. As I said before, I do believe the best way to learn is by watching, so be sure to follow my Twitch to catch the action live and hang out with me in the chat. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have inspired you to be in better Horizon.